Welcome everyone to Disclosure Network New York on Sunday, December 16th, 2018 in Manhattan, New York City. Today is a very special day indeed. In the first portion of DNNY's meeting today, we will lovingly remember and celebrate the life of our beloved member of our group, a very dear friend who passed on only a few days ago, Mr. Edward Schwartz, who has touched all of our lives in so many different and so many wonderful ways. After the ceremony to honor Ed, we will take a short 5-minute break and then continue with our scheduled program for today, which is a shared program where we're going to talk about personal experiences we've had with unexplained phenomenon. That could be many different forms. And we're going to discuss that a little bit. That some of us have had these experiences, some of us have had more than a few. So we're going to try to get as many people as possible to share something, at least one of their experiences with us. There'll be a short Q&A if there's time. The program is audio recorded and placed both on YouTube as well as our website, dnny.info. Our meeting will end promptly at 4 o'clock. Are there any questions at this point? Anyone in the room? Okay, then let us begin, and thank you all for coming. Tom Garber would first like to announce an upcoming holiday concert in New York, the New York Community Chorus, which will be performed today at 4 o'clock, which is right when we end. And it's going to include a very special concert. Tom, just quickly tell them what's going to be on the program.
Okay, they're going to perform 2 pieces that I composed. One of them is called The Divine Teaching of St. Francis. It contains the Canticle of the Sun, the Sermon to the Birds, and the Peace Prayer. In the Sermon to the Birds, there will be toy bird calls, 7 different bird calls singing, and there will be rattles that sound like crickets chirping, and there will also be a tambourine, right? And the other piece is called Fond Memories of Ivya. Ivya is the town my grandmother came from. It's now in Belarus. This is a medley of 3 Yiddish folk songs that were indeed performed by the people in Ivya and all over Eastern Europe. So both of those pieces I composed are going to be performed with lots of other delightful holiday songs. It's at the Church of the Holy Apostles on 9th Avenue at 28th Street. And it starts at 4 o'clock. They open the doors at 3:30, and I'm going to leave at 3 to get up there. If you want to go, you can follow me up there.
So Tom, if you go ahead, please. Do you want to tell just a little bit about this?
Yeah, okay. Well, Nick is going to read in English the Mourner's Kaddish. This is a very sacred prayer for the dead. And generally speaking, on these kinds of occasions, one lights candles, right? And when you light the candles, you sing the blessing for over lighting the candles. So I'm going to sing that. Normally, at the end it says it's the candles for the Sabbath or for Hanukkah or for something like that. We're going to say that it's for Yizkor, because Yizkor is a service of remembrance. Okay, so I'll just light them here and I'll sing it here and then I'll move them up to the front where everybody can see them. How to do this. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam Asher kidshanu b'mitzvosav v'tzivanu lehadlik ner shel yizkor. In English, that is, Blessed art thou, O Lord our God, King of the universe, who has sanctified us with his commandments and commanded us to light the candles of remembrance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ed. I'd like to start with everyone, if you join me in doing a spiritual hum right now, please. Today we join together to celebrate the life of Ed Schwartz. We know him as a gifted and insightful colleague and researcher who dug deep to seek the truth. A close and beloved friend and a loving husband and father, a true gentleman, and a deep, caring individual. Ed touched the life of us all in so many, many ways. The following is the Mourner's Knish. It's the English translation. I'm going to do my best. Glorified and sanctified be God's great name throughout the world, which he has created according to his will. May he establish his kingdom in your lifetime and during your days and within the life of an entire house of Israel, speedily and soon, and say amen.
Amen.
May his great name be blessed forever and for all eternity. Blessed and praised, glorified and exalted, extolled and honored, adored and lauded be the name of the Holy One. Blessed be he beyond all blessings and hymns, praises and consolations that are ever spoken in the world, and say amen. May there be an abundant peace from heaven and life for us and for all Israel, and say amen. He who creates peace in his celestial heights, may he create peace for us and for all Israel, and say amen. I'd like to do just a brief background about what you just heard. The theme of Knish is rather the greatness of God, who conducts the entire universe, and especially his most favored creature, each individual human being, with careful supervision. In this prayer, we also pray for peace from apparently the only one who can guarantee it. Peace between nations, peace between individuals, peace of mind. Paradoxically, this is, in fact, the only true comfort in the case of the loss of a loved one. That is, to be able to view the passing of a beloved individual from the perspective that their person's soul, as gathered in, so to speak, by the one who had provided it in the first place. As Bereithen, the great wife of Rabbi Meyer, consoled her husband upon the death of their two sons, the word in this effect, quote, "A soul is comparable to an object which is given to us, to each individual, to his or her parents and loved ones, to guard and watch over for a limited time. When that time comes to the object to be returned to its rightful owner, shall we not be willing to return it? With regard to our sons, let us therefore consider that the matter is, quote, the Lord gave and the Lord took back. May the name of the Lord be blessed." And now I'd like to read a few passages from the Urantia book concerning the transition one goes through from this life to the next realm. Quote, "When the end of the mortal life comes, hesitate not to forsake this body for a more fit and beautiful form, and to awake in the realms of the supreme and immortal, where there is no fear, sorrow, hunger, thirst, or death. To know God is to cut the cords of death," unquote. Quote, "There is in the mind of God a plan which embraces every creature of all his domains, and this plan is an eternal purpose of boundless opportunity, unlimited progress, and endless life. And the infinite treasures, such as matchless career, is yours for the striving," unquote. And the final one, quote, "The eternal purpose of the eternal God is a high spiritual ideal. The events of time and the struggles of material existence are but the transient scaffolding which bridges over from the other side to the promised land of spiritual reality and spiritual existence." I would like to have right now anyone who would like to say a few words about Ed, raise your hand and I'll call upon you one at a time. Will you do that? Please come up here, right here.
And let me know if you're comfortable with me recording.
And just if you will, sorry?
And just let me know if you're not comfortable recording. I'll respect that.
You can
No,
record me.
we're comfortable. We're fine. This is thank you, but this is a hearty group. Okay. Your first name?
Stephanie.
Please, Stephanie, go ahead.
I just like to say that I met Ed about 3.5 years ago, almost now, but I felt like I knew him a lot longer. He was a gentleman, a scholar, and I even feel like I know you and your mom so well because he talked about you guys incessantly. He was just a sweet guy, and we're all going to miss him. I don't want to break up in tears, but he was just a sweetheart. He was a great friend. We used to meet, other than we had the dnny meetings, we had a small mini dinny, we used to call it, and we would meet for lunch every once in a while up in your neighborhood, and what was it, Tal Bagels. That was our go-to spot. And I just can't believe that he's gone. He was just such a good person, a very good person. It's just very sad to lose a friend like that.
Absolutely.
And that's it.
Stephanie, thank you so much. Would someone else like to talk? Yes, please. If you will, just give us your first name. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Hal, and again, I know Ed long, but I just wanted to say that he was very much a gentleman of the old school. He was just wonderfully polite, wonderfully warm, very quick with the joke, very, very quick with the joke, liked to quote old TV shows, and oddly enough, when we would meet outside of these meetings, he was one of the few people who would always show up early and then always complain about everyone else who would show up late. But it was an honor to know him, and he will really, truly be missed by me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Hal. Someone else like to talk? Please. And if you will, please sit over here and say your first
Hi,
name.
I'm Lorraine. How you doing? Ed was great. He just made everybody laugh. I really miss him a lot. He was very witty, very witty. And, you know, when I had my stroke, 50 people came to the hospital. And Ed was one of them, and I will never forget that. And you know, that's why I'm here today, because I got the help that I needed. And my friends were there. I mean, everybody was there. And you know what? Your father was a gentleman through and through. And you know what? He was my equal. For the first time I met somebody who was so bright. Your father was so smart. He was great. I'm gonna really, really miss him. And we used to kid around all the time. And you know, we used to have our little meetings at Tal Bagel, and we would laugh. I mean, the people in the front, they would look at us like, why are they laughing so hard? But we would laugh. And you know, I never met your mother, but all he talked about was you and your mother. He loved you through and through. He really did.
Well, thank you so much.
Thank
Great.
you.
Wow. Would anyone else like to speak before we go on? Brent, would you?
Sure.
Could you give that to?
Just
Yeah, just name it. And Brent, of course, is
I'm Brent.
Ed's son.
I'm Ed's son. So, like I said before, just really appreciative of myself, of all the friends here, and feel like extended family. And he spoke of the group so highly, and really look forward to it. It gave him something. Get him out of the house. Look forward to. Give him something to really invigorated him in his retirement. He had obviously passion about the Kennedy assassination, and it just opened up so much. One thing with my dad is that he always opened up his heart to people, and I say if I'm half the man that he was, I'll be happy, It's actually, I don't want to bring, things that were negative into it, and I don't want to ramble on, but, just to put in perspective, to tie it together with my dad and kind of the things that you guys have said about him is that, I don't know if you're familiar, he has a brother, is my Uncle Joe, and he lives in Tampa, and when I apologized if my phone goes off, luckily it was on vibrate, but right before, I started recording it, Joe called me, and I forwarded it to voicemail just now, and I just want to share, so I didn't really know my grandma and grandpa on my father's side. I knew my grandfather was lucky enough, and I have one picture to hold me. I'm going to say it sounded arrogant, but I was lucky enough to see that picture of my grandfather holding me as a child, and he passed away shortly after. I knew my grandmother as a sweet old medicated lady in a wheelchair in a nursing home. And as I grew up, I kind of learned about my father's childhood, and my grandmother, and God rest her soul, I didn't know, and, just life, but maybe today would have been something that you would diagnose as possibly a mental illness. And my father and his brother grew up in a very tumultuous, abusive home, and stories of, plates thrown and hitting over the head with this and just things that are tough as a child. And my dad, as I learned, he went towards the light and kindness and, instantly forgave everybody. And not to say, his brother, everybody handles it in their own way, and I'm not here to say anything bad. It would have been nice to have an uncle in my life instead of, from what I see, kind of a little bit of run away from the issues. And again, I'm finding and trying to go towards my father's way, and I know that's what he would want, is to reconcile and forgive. So that's going to be a conversation to come. I left my uncle a very curt message just out of respect for being his brother, to let him know of my father's passing. But that's what I'm going to hold on to. I'm going to try to be the best person I can be and try to reflect my dad, and try to just be kind and caring and understanding throughout life, because that's totally who he was. And honestly, that's the people who win in the long run, the ones that don't hold on to the grudges or the small stuff. They don't sweat the small stuff. And my dad was always that way. He always moved forward and tried to be positive and tried to bring light to other people. So again, I'll end it here. My father is a great, great man. I'll miss him dearly. He's never going to leave me. I can't express enough how grateful I am that I've met you folks and a bunch of his other friends. That, you know, it's like he passed, and that same day and the next day it opened up a lot of new friendships, and I know that, you know, Dad's smiling and really proud of that, and I'm very grateful as well. So I thank you all.
Brian, God bless you.
You too.
And,
Thank you guys so much.
You have a
thank
whole
you,
new
Nick.
bunch of family right here.
Thank you
Know
so
that.
much. And Nick has my phone number, so you know, you guys are welcome, and you guys can text anytime. You know what I mean? So, you know, I mean, I don't pick up as much, and we can stop recording. You know. But yeah, so I can leave my phone number with y'all, and if you call and I don't answer, just, you know, leave a message and I'll get back. You know, I'm trying to be like my father and respect everybody and follow up and do the right thing. So, yeah.
He loves you so much.
I know.
He talked about you.
We shared so much love. You know, I don't want to interrupt or cut into the time. You know, but like, that's what I'm so grateful for, is that me living in California, and I couldn't live with myself. I knew that he wasn't feeling well, and I heard it in his voice. And, you know, it was a tough go, and he's in a better place because he was suffering at the end. And sometimes you don't, you know, people with just kind of things have been saying, but like, we're all passing through, you know, and everything's borrowed. So it's just, he
has all the answers now. Whatever
That's
questions,
right.
whatever questions we had, especially here at dnny,
Oh my God.
he has all the answers. I just wish maybe he could give us a little sign.
That's right, you know, but he always steered towards the positive and just saw the good, and that's what we all have to do in life, you know, is just go towards the light and just be the best we can be.
Brian, I have a piece of music I'm going to play. It's about 3 minutes long. The title of it is called Tenderness. And this piece of music, every time I hear it, there's something in this music that I get sobbing. It's just something about this music, and I thought this would be very appropriate, so I'm going to just play it and just think of that as you listen to it. Ed, dear friend, we wish you joy. We wish you peace. We wish you an amazing and miraculous journey as you transcend from this world to a higher and more glorious realm en route to your final home, embraced by the limitless love of God the creator of all. This brings us to the end of this very special tribute to a very, very special man. Ed, we love you. We're out.
Thank you guys so much.
Wow. That was a lot.
Yeah, it helps me a great deal, so I really appreciate it.
Oh boy, if that alone would be.
It truly does, it really, really does to know that, I knew him as Dad, and it's like to see how many people here and just over the last few days have really said that how he's touched them in certain ways, and the one constant, and it was mentioned here again, is what a gentleman he was, how gentle he was.
Boy, always he would be so incredibly polite, and to tell you the truth, I picked up from him because it helped me to be more polite because the way he phrased things, like he would say, "May I ask a question?"
Right.
How many people say that?
Yeah.
Right.
I love that. But may I ask you a question?
Yeah, really, I'm going to try and channel that because I have a lot of, I guess you hold things in a little bit, and you don't know as you go through life, you kind of you just learn, you grow, you pick things up and you begin to appreciate it, and it's like almost, it's surreal, obviously, and while Dad was passing the moment of, and I just had to I felt like I was obviously just about to drop. I had to hold on and just take a deep breath and compose myself because it's an overwhelming moment. But
how did you find out? How did you find out? You got a call from your mom?
I was home. I saw
Oh,
everything.
you were. Oh, that's right.
I
That's
was
right.
home. Yeah, so it was very visual.
Were you there when he
Yeah.
fell?
Well, I heard it and I ran.
You
in.
heard it, and
Yeah.
then you immediately called
My mom. I told my mom, and she called, and I was there, and I was home.
and the ambulance came right away, right?
Well, it was, you know what I mean, and I just think, with my dad, he was telling me over the days, he was getting progressively weaker, and he was just telling me he was suffering, and the last night on Earth, I'd always tell him, and just like any crazy family, and you feel guilty and things like that, and I was kind of Googling the stages of grief and stuff, and for what I'm feeling, and bargaining is one of them, which is reasoning and feeling guilt and trying the woulda, coulda, shouldas and things like this, and you feel bad because, and he always knew, which makes it easier because he always shared how much he loved us. So I know it. You guys know it because he shared it, but he shared it so much, and in the last few days, especially, or few months, and on the phone from California so much, but he hated arguing. He was a very peaceful man.
Yeah.
And my mom, she's a saint. My mom is absolutely, with all her health problems, she's aggressive a little bit because of medication that she needs to take to survive, steroid base, and he gets it, I get it, me and my whatever, we argue and things like that, and he was always peacemaker. But the last night, to tie it up, is that two things actually. A story I'll never forget, and I text my cousin because, and I was so grateful that I kind of zoned out a little bit, to be honest, and my dad asked me again, what did you think of that story? And I said, I was like, huh? And he said he repeated himself. I'm so happy he did because I didn't ask him to. If he didn't, I would have not got this. But when I was a kid, I guess I was a little bossy. So when I was in preschool, my nickname was Chiefy. Chief, right? So I still have my first toy that my preschool teacher, I guess, got me, Popeye the Sailor Man. And Dad's handwriting, he rewrote it because I guess over 30 plus years, it says on the chin it started to wear out. So I see it distinctly in his handwriting, Chiefy, exclamation point. And we're big Yankee fans. I don't know.
Yes, we know. I'm a big Met fan. We used to argue.
You mentioned it 2,000 times.
That's right. And my son works for the Mets too.
Oh, that's right. Okay, very good. He told me about
So,
that.
yeah.
So my cousin, I couldn't find this jersey, but there's a players-only jersey where they're allowed to wear nicknames on the back for 2 days only. So Jacoby Ellsbury, who's not a great player, but he's Native American descent, so it says Chief on the back. And I regret not buying it when it was on the website, so I asked my cousin, he gets it somewhere, and he got it for me. When I saw him 5 days, as it turned out, I got it before my father passed away. Who knows? He's on his way to have a baby girl first, so, circle of life and everything. But he gave me the jersey, so I was so happy, and I came back home and I showed my dad, And over the years, he told me how big of a fan he was of this pitcher, Allie Reynolds. And he's like, I didn't buy that autographed baseball of Allie Reynolds for $100 back in whatever, and he was always kicking himself for it or whatever. But he told me the second time, because I zoned out, thankfully, Allie Reynolds had Native American descent as well, and his nickname was the Super Chief. And he also wore number 22, like Ellsbury.
Wow.
So that makes it even more of a connection for me, that he was one of my favorite, my dad's favorite players, and I shared that with my cousin. And I guess we'll never forget that. But the last night on Earth, he spoke with me that night, and he was telling me, basically, he said, to be honest, Brant, I'm dying. And I didn't want to believe it, you know.
Of course.
I wanted to keep fighting, and you're kind of angry because it's like, come on, you know, but he's a realist, and he's being honest, and nobody can tell you how you can feel. And he told me, oh, and my mother, you don't know how I feel. And we didn't, and we respected that, we understood. Brutally honest, and that's the way it is. But I couldn't have been more emphatic that he told me, he goes, Brant, you got to take over. I can't make it to the post office. And he's always worried about, like, you know, every little thing about from the light bulbs. It's
Yes.
joking with my mom about you got to put the light bulbs here. You got to know in case,
Yes.
you know. I'm like,
Yes.
okay, you know. But I was so emphatic that I told him, I said, you have nothing to worry about. And I've said it before, but I guess it just I couldn't have said it more emphatically to hit home for him, that I love Mom just as much as you do, and you know, I'm going to be here for her no matter what. And he just seemed like he was really at peace with that, and he was like, that's really good to know, you know. Like,
Oh boy, absolutely. That's
yeah, and
that's
he
amazing.
said goodnight to me and my mother individually, first my mom and then me, and you know, he kind of forgot, you know, we were saying I love you so much, and he said goodnight, you know, I said I love you, Dad, love you too.
Oh, I'm so glad you had a chance
I
to
had
say
that,
that.
you know, and that's where it's so, it's never going to be easy, but I always told myself, like, I wouldn't be able to live myself in California with a phone call.
Yeah.
And, you know, if you could check a box not knowing, and you know what I mean, it's like, this is the way it is, where he looked into my eyes, some of the last breaths that he took, and I kind of give that, you know, it's just, he's saying goodbye to me, and he's at peace, because I know that he wasn't happy with the quality of life. So,
You know, and I'm sure you get what I'm going to say. I would give everything I have for 1 minute more with my father or mother.
yes.
1 minute.
Because you know more after the fact, right? It's like this, I wish I knew, you know, right?
I have to say, we got to know him on a really intimate level, having those
Exactly.
luncheons, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because he did mention about his childhood. He did
Yes.
mention he was in the military. He told me you lived in San Diego. You told me about your
Yes.
sister,
Mhm.
us about your
Yes.
sister.
Yeah.
We knew him so much
Well.
more intimately and
Yeah.
well.
We did.
And there was such a connection. I think that's kismet. There's a
Absolutely.
reason why. And you invited me to the first luncheon.
Right.
And then one of the stories I wrote about to you guys was the first time we went to, we were meeting in Talbagles when it was
But we
bad
used to
weather.
meet in the park.
But when it got nicer
Right,
out,
Central
we started hanging out in
That's
Central Park.
Yeah.
Central
Right.
Park.
Right.
And
Hamilton
I would
section.
meet Ed and Nick in Nick's lobby, and we would
Right.
walk to the park.
Exactly.
And one of the first times I went to Central Park, there was a hot dog stand there, and I went to get
Oh,
a hot
yeah,
dog,
right,
remember? And you guys started walking ahead, so I got a hot dog and I ran after you, and then your father looked at my hot dog and says, "Who eats hot dogs without sauerkraut? Go back and get some." You know,
He
go back and get
insisted,
some.
You have to do this.
Right?
You
Yeah.
must have a,
That's
So-
a real New Yorker.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So, you know, it's just, I feel like we know you guys so well. And I remember saying to him one time when we were here, you know, Linda, his friend Linda, the singer.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
I said to him once, I said, say hi to Sherry. She said, "Do you know his wife?" And I said, "No, I never met her, but I feel like I do."
Yeah,
Because he's
exactly.
always talking about her.
yeah.
Right.
Oh, by the way,
And always saying, "I gotta get home, I gotta get her food, I gotta get her this."
I contacted her because she's a performer. She's got an amazing voice, and I asked her if she could sing an a cappella thing here. She said, "Oh my God, Nick, I would give anything, but I'm under contract for a gig, and I can't get out of it today."
One
But
more
she
thing
said,
I'd like to
"Remember,
say. One more thing I'd like to say.
Sure.
I have to say that Nick also is a great guy.
Yes.
Because at the end he helped them out. Every time I said he
Yes.
should get help, he should get somebody to help them in the house, you
Listen,
know.
I mean, to piggyback on that, Nick,
Yeah.
we're forever grateful.
Yeah,
my mom
because
has said
he would
so
go,
many-
Nick helped me, he went to the
so many
store,
things,
you
yeah.
know, and
It
then
was
so.
my honor,
You
and,
were
and
a
just so
good
you
friend.
know, Ed and I would stop at a particular bench right at the edge of a park on 2nd Avenue, about 87th, 88th Street,
Yeah.
and we would rest before we go to the grocery store to get things, and then we probably did the same thing on the way back. And I passed that bench a few days ago, and I had to sit down
Yeah.
and say, hey, Ed, you know, you're always with us. Always with us.
Yeah.
And you know, that's something too, I think you guys will understand this too, and probably appreciate this, that when you lose someone that you love and respect, you don't really lose them because they're with you all the time. And time does not diminish that, right?
Yeah,
It doesn't diminish it. In fact, if anything, it heightens it, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't it for you?
I think so.
It does, and that's wonderful that
Yeah.
those, and then you treasure all the times you had, everything you did. Even when you were doing some things that, oh, can we get through this day because blah, blah, blah. Even that, you treasure all those moments, and that's such a gift.
It really is. I'm blessed to have the parents I have, and you know, and I know how good of folks I have based on my sister's life and how much they sacrificed. And
When did she, when
2005, she passed away at 17.
At 17,
and they
and
gave everything they could to give her the best quality of life they could. I mean, they did everything they could possibly do.
yeah.
Everything, just like my mom did for my father when he got sick, and just like my father would do for my mother and for me, and like that's why I say I can't do enough for either of them, and I don't know if I could ever live up to that, but you know, it's like what I told my dad, I'm always there for my mother, and it's easier because there was always love reciprocated, and we're fortunate because you know it's you know not everybody could say that, and I'm very, very grateful I had the father I did and the mother I have.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
And
friends
your
because of
dad
it.
is now buried at the cemetery in New Jersey where your
That's
sister.
right. I said hello to Lauren and Nicole.
Yeah. But by the
And,
way, as you know, your mom called me and left a message and said, Nick, if you want to join us, the limo's coming in the morning, and we'll drive to. And
Yeah, you didn't
I
know
got the
that.
message
I
that
know.
afternoon.
Yeah, I know.
And I
I
went,
know.
oh my God,
worry.
because but
Yeah.
it was such an honor for her to
Sure.
call me and say that.
Well, that's it. Goes to show how much you meant to my father and to her, and you were really there. You were really there for him.
I still am, by the way.
I know you are, of course. You know.
So
and
just
it's
know
It is truly, it is appreciated. Was and is.
Are you going to? I don't think you know this yet. If you're going to stay in New York or go back, is it San
Well,
Diego?
yeah, so I mean, I just talked to I left a voicemail. I couldn't even get to a voicemail from my district manager without breaking down. She called me a few days later, and so I told her, I said, look, I'm putting in the transfer request, but you know, everybody, it's corporate, so they have to, in case I flake out or something, nobody wants to look bad. So she said, on leave, I need to go back and actually put a fit for duty, and I'm back and I'm in with the company before she could pick up the phone. And so my plan is, yeah, I'm going to transfer back here. My mom, selfless, she said, what do you want? And she said, if you want to go to San Diego, I'm fine. So it looks like I booked the flight New Year's Eve because it just worked out to be cheaper that way to go back, and my plan is to get my stuff and move it to storage and take it year by year with an eye to go back. Looks like I may have to work a little bit longer, maybe a month or two or so. I don't know if it's going to be that long before I can come back, but that's what I'm shooting for. But
Well, keep us posted.
I will.
And we're still going to continue the mini dinnies, okay? And hopefully you can come to them.
Sure.
All right. And also
I can't promise all
other
of
things.
them, especially when work starts at retail. You don't have, you know, Sundays I'm never off. You know, it's like, you know, I can't watch football, nothing. But you know, yeah, I definitely will feel honored to be here, and you know, and I'll be back to share some.
Brent, keep us close, okay? We're gonna.
Really quick. Your father was the only person that I know that would actually copy things over. Let's just say we talked to Alex, that's how they now, I was a school teacher, okay? But like, I would listen when we go to lectures. He would bring this yellow pen.
And handwriting.
Yeah,
Verbatim.
everything was like verbatim.
But then you take it home
me-
and you lose it, and then you have to rewrite it.
Whenever it was me, I would have like, I couldn't even read my own handwriting.
Yeah.
And I would look at him and I would be like, the write everything down, and he would, if you liked the book, he would give you the book.
Yeah.
And that's the truth.
Mm-hmm.
He always-
He always
he would.
brought books.
He always
He gave me
brought
some
books
books.
with him. He was
So what we're
amazing.
going to do, Guy, thank you,
Yeah.
Lorraine, again. And a lot of people are going to, go ahead.
Just two things. You would have never known from seeing Ed at these meetings that he wasn't in good health. He never talked about that. He never talked about anything negative.
That's right.
You know, this is one of the qualities that they always talked about Mozart. You know, some people said they didn't understand why he wrote these letters to all these people where he said, "A million kisses are flying through the air, wet, soppy ones," and all that. And it was the same thing. If you read the biographies of him by the great writers like Albert Einstein, he says the reason was because he did not want his own unhappiness or suffering, whatever it was, to be a burden for other people. He wanted to buoy other people up. And the other thing was that song that you played, dee-dum, bum, 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 dee-dum. If you play that in the key of D major, that bum, bum, dee-dum, that would be ED for Ed.
Oh,
How did you know?
really? Oh, wow. Okay, wow, that's incredible.
Okay, thank you.
Ed, did you, I don't remember, because my mind was going, did you tell the story about where the candles are from?
Oh, well, they're from Israel.
Well, tell them why, tell them that little thing you told me about was it your grandma? About the candles and that she wasn't there more about the candles?
All I know is that the town my grandmother came from, called Ivya, this was one of the towns where the Nazis came in and they killed the entire Jewish population in one day, right? And the survivors have a meeting as close to that day as possible, May 12, 1942, right? And they always have a candelabra, a gorgeous candelabra made out of sterling silver that probably would sell for about $5,000 or something like that. And so I thought that it would be nice to bring candlesticks that were, not so terribly expensive. You don't have to worry about them. They're not real silver. You don't have to go crazy polishing them, And these gorgeous candles that come from Israel that you saw, the multicolors that they're in. So I used to always bring that to the memorial meetings. And when you hear those people talk about the stories of how they managed to be survivors of this, we're talking about people who jumped into pits that had hundreds of bodies in them and had 6 dead bodies squashing them down all night, and then crawled out in the morning when the Nazis were gone and ran away somewhere. These kinds of stories. I have heard these stories from these people, and you see the look in their eyes, and you know. And for them, it's just like it just happened yesterday, as far as you would think from the way they tell it.
When you mentioned Belarus before, and I'm sorry, Nick, to cut in. There's so many stories, and because of my father's passing, I've always been growing up. My grandparents on my mother's side, I was alive for and had more lifetime memories with them, so I knew more about them. But when you're a kid, you don't really listen to the stories and stuff like that.
Wish we had.
Yeah, of course. And I was fortunate enough where my mother shared her first date with my dad, how they met, and funny enough, cousins and people coming over, we're sitting shiva and stuff, and my mom asked one of her first cousins, or told them, I met Ed the day of your bar mitzvah, and he had no idea. This was 3 days ago. And he goes, "You're kidding me." She goes, "I went to your bar mitzvah, I went to a friend's house to a dance, I met him, and then we exchanged numbers, and we went out the next day. Guess where their first date was a Yankee game." I joked that baseball never left my mom's life ever since. I can continue on. But for my mom's side, her cousin he works for City Hall, a brilliant guy, went to Harvard, went into the archives and did this whole background of our family heritage, what boats and where they came from. And one of this guys is from Belarus, interesting, I'll make it quick, just to put some humor to it, is that, so it's my great-great-grandfather, I believe, or great-great-great-grandfather. He was in Pinsk, which is now Belarus. It was the Soviet Union, and a lot of anti-Semitism and persecution and things. There was a big soap-making industry there. He was a soap maker. And the story has it, because he did a Harvard dissertation for credit about his family, he made a bad batch of soap, which happens sometimes, right? So he didn't know, I guess, innocently, we think, I hope, he poured it in the lake by mistake, and it's the Tsar's lake. and it poisoned the fish, right? So
Oh.
they put this big thing about, you know, and as my mom's cousin said, it didn't take much for somebody to go after the Jewish person back then, you know.
Oh.
Say, oh, let's go get
Wow.
him, you know?
Wow.
So he fled for his life, and my mom's cousin Matthew, all the research, the guy's brilliant, and he couldn't find anybody with Shafik, which is my mom's maiden name. And he did more research and he found a different name, same height, same description, same boat, same time frame, and how it turned out, he figured, is that he took his mother's maiden name to escape and get on this boat to come over, and that's how the generations became. So he goes, and they all tie it into humor. He goes, so our great-great-grandfather was a environmentalist fugitive.
I love stories like that. We got a time thing here. So guys, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Okay,
Thank you.
You had and have the best father you could possibly
Yes, I
have.
know.
We're going to take a 5-minute break, stretch, whatever. And when we come back, we're going to do a podcast, not a podcast, a recording, and we're going to share stories of our own lives that had to do with paranormal, whatever. So we're all set, and you're going to be going. I know how to turn that off at 4 o'clock. And if anybody else wants to go to that concert, I mean, right? It's on 29th. Well, you're going to go.
I'm going. You could go with
So
me.
you can go with that if you want to go to that concert. Otherwise, stay here for our meeting. It's too bad it had to happen exactly, because I would have gone if it was like at 5 o'clock, but it's not. It's right at 4. Okay.
And if anybody, like I said, wants my phone number, if you want to make the round, just get it from Nick, and then just
I have a lot of emails that came to me once I made the announcement on the internet about your dad, and so I'm going to email everyone on our list all the comments from Hawaii, from a lot of other places that he had
I
friends.
remember my dad told me the gentleman you did like a
Right.
FaceTime or something. He said
Ray Songtree is a
He was
cutting
very
edge
impressive.
researcher, and your dad and him have been going back and forth for a long time.
Yeah, he particularly liked one of those segments. He told me just recently. He said.
So you're going to get that. I'm going to email everybody so you can see what was being said.
And I'll text you, later on tonight or so, or tomorrow. I'll send you the videos of the recordings episodes.
Excellent. Okay, guys. So just stretch.
Thank you, guys.
I'm okay. I just don't remember this.
That's okay. All right. That's okay.
No, you did. I've been going to these I'm sure he was an extraordinary person. I'm sorry, I didn't
That's a good sign. I got more stores.
No, that's just a regular for the flame that came up, but instead of, in honor of Charlotte, I said in honor of remembrance. No.
I didn't get a chance to say
He said it, and it was too long to go through all the times they worked with. But what everyone always remarks about from other cultures is that this is probably the only prayer for the dead that does not have a definite name.
Where did you get that marvelous scarf? Where did you find this?
There was a lady selling these. She had them on the rack outdoors
Out in the street?
on East Houston Street. Yes,
Where?
East Houston Street.
On East Houston Street? Less than 5?
This one was $8. There were some made out of wool that were 18. This one, I don't know what it's made out of, but I guess it's something like, it feels like silk or something. I don't know.
Very beautiful.
guess that's probably the front.
Beautiful color.
Oh, thank you. Okay, I guess you're
If you get tired, give it to me.
next time I go by her, if she's out there again, I'll try to get some more. This was the only one with this kind. There were some that were, more subdued, but I thought this one was expecting me at the concert.
Gets down to winter now, eggs, we're gonna buy. One of the things we did yesterday, I didn't notice this, he decided she wanted Christmas lights in the kitchen. That's the fact that nobody's even so I didn't know the electrical, and you're an electrician, I didn't see the electrical contractor that he said, right? So I had to wash the dishes, and I see that he has piece of wire like this and that with another connector going to the plug, and this was a bad and in between you said my face looked like a medicine. I said, I thought it was. I said, let me calm down. It was loose and tape. It wasn't even like that. So I just put it out of the wall and I have it. Funny because it was out of the wall. But this is a very dangerous thing. He tells me that I'm crazy and nobody else said and I'm like, oh, I said, this could have started with this. Just you could have done because you won't find. I said, I know what you did. I could have cut 2 buffers. I did a brand new cord. I had it on the floor, but it was good enough. I said, if you wanted a shorter one, maybe I would have had it. And tired it up. Why did I said, because I know why. Because you don't have a lot of it. If you don't mind, it's like I'm telling you. But you know what? He grew up. I just told you. Your father. I gotta go. I know. I really like you. He's something like that. He's not kidding. He's saying that stuff for us.
The first time I have known this gentleman has done it. I don't remember
Anyway, I'll tell you that story.
I don't remember but I heard so many wonderful things about
It was the day
it. Was very moving.
very serious, and I think that
He was very moving. He
wanting to have
nice things.
also everything is because he had like I don't know, he didn't have a lot. So I don't know. Sometimes to make sure you feel nice meeting you, man. And safe travel back to San Diego.
Thanks, thank you.
I mean, like, it was hard to remember. Like I said, when she got sick, they went off to different orphanages, then she got better, she had the return. The oldest brother was the shortest one, he was a tough guy. I mean, my father was like 77 little first, I just don't like that. Yeah, pictures of my grandfather. Daniel, very dark. And he was so tall that, they didn't have money to have us, so they got like the sleeve from here, they very tough looking. And my aunt told me the story, because my father didn't remember when he was a baby. My aunt said that when my grandfather was living just living on the bridge, because on the waterfront there was tobacco.
Yeah.
And sugar. There was sugar. So my aunt
He loved it.
And he used to
Yeah.
and my aunt told me, and my aunt told me, but I don't know if he was with a crew. I don't know if they had, because my mother's side, my mother's side, I'll tell you about my family on my mother's side. You can look it up on the internet, all over the internet. I've got pictures of him on Instagram. That's how famous he is. But anyway, so my aunt told me that he used to be Boston Eggs every day, back in the 30s, early 30s, maybe late 20s. My father was 29, so I had to be early 30s. He was about 4 or 5 when he died. I was a little Filipino guy, I was always bullied by my grandfather. Bullied him. One day, I was in the Philippines. I had a shoe. So that, I guess.
But boys don't understand that if you push a person so much, you love it that yourself. Next year, they'll walk down the street. Back in the old days, out of their lives, they used to make little wrap it up with something so that way it makes no noise. And then you walk on casually, next thing you know, they walk with the right bag, you pop them on the side of your head or pop them right up your stomach, because the thing is in your stomach, that bullet ricochets and you're gonna break it. You're not gonna come out of that. So I wouldn't either, in the head it wasn't really too common, because the thing is, you really didn't kill, a lot of times you go into skull with a 22. No, but when you do it in the stomach, the bullet ricochets around the stomach area, and it knocks off all the organs, it's just dead. My thing was always back then, don't start something you're gonna regret.
Sorry.
You
Go ahead.
need to?
Well, I just was going to ask you a question. I thought you were finished talking to the gentleman.
Oh, okay.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? We're about to do the part 2 of our meeting. Wow, that was incredible. That wasn't it? That we shared that, and I think that Brent was quite moved by his sincerity, and I'm so happy he could come today. I was hoping he could. His mom, Sherry, is homebound, so she couldn't, but we recorded it. We're going to get it to her. So that's what's going on. So the second half of it.
Can I make a suggestion? I think all of us should maybe like chip in. It doesn't have to be now, but getting flowers. I think that would be nice.
To do what? I'm sorry.
I said chip in and get her flowers.
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Something besides flowers,
Yes.
because for in Judaism, you don't send flowers.
What do you do?
Whatever.
You send something
Right.
that's-
Fruit?
Something that is for the living, not something that will pass on.
Okay.
I think you're right. We should chip in and send something from
Okay,
DNny.
if anybody has any suggestions about the proper thing, thank you for saying that. Okay, Lorraine, yes, of course. Of course, no, that's absolutely, I was thinking the same thing. So what we're going to do you want to take a seat here? You can sit back here if you want to get your stuff, if you want to, there. There's no one sitting there, right?
Even
She was sitting here.
Oh, but she's sitting there now, so yeah, go ahead.
Sweetie.
Okay. Okay, so here we go with the second half of the meeting. Okay, I need your attention, everybody. I'm going to do my howl. Okay, I got your attention. It works every time, including how. All right, so what we got now is part 2. It's going to be about 45 minutes. We're going to break about 10 of 4 so we can put the chairs away. And Betty, if I may have your attention. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to do my intro like I always do, and then I'm going to ask for people that want to come up and sit in that chair. I'll give you some more room, and just chat with me about any paranormal experiences that you've had. And we all, I think everybody, how many have had, let me just ask, how many have had paranormal, raise your hand. I thought so. So, who hasn't had a chance from the last time we had a meeting to do one? Raise your hand if you haven't done it yet. You haven't? You haven't?
Well, I haven't.
You mean like?
Oh, by the way, welcome. I have to say that.
Do you mean part 1?
You hit quite a meeting today. You really did.
Do you mean part 1?
Yeah, part 1, which is the last meeting where people talked about.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that when I ask for hands, we'll start with the people who haven't had a chance yet to say anything on the mic. Raise your hands for that. Then and then when we get through that, then I'll ask if you want to do another one. And I know some of you got multiple events that you want to share, which is wonderful. You're doing that. Also, I've had feedback that people say, I feel so comfortable because I couldn't say this to my husband or my wife or my boyfriend or girlfriend. I couldn't say some of these things because they think that I'm over what's going on, and yet I know that it's happened in my life. And I've had feedback like that. So you're also doing them a favor because this goes out. And I just wanted to let you know that I had a recent experience of talking to someone, and that's what they said. So, okay, I'm going to do my spiel, then I'm going to ask for hands, and just your first name. Okay, here we go. Quiet on the set.
We're going to go together.
What?
We're going to go together.
Okay.
The two of us. So
when you're up here, move the chair closer. Okay. Here we go. And this is not a Q&A, okay? Because I want to get as many as I can in and out. Here we go. 10 past. Hello and welcome to Disclosure Network New York, a meeting on Sunday, December 16, 2018. I'm Nick Curto, co-founder and director. DNNY is a grassroots organization now celebrating our 18th year of providing 2 meetings a month throughout the year in Manhattan. We focus on cutting-edge UFO ET issues, paranormal phenomenon, and many related subjects. Our members do intensive investigative research into these various topics and share that information with the group at our meetings as well as with our internet followers, and there are many. Our motto has been, right from day one, quote, connecting the dots to seek truth, unquote. We have available to everyone worldwide a DNNY News Blast email service focusing on the topics of special interest that is totally free. Just visit our website, which is dnny.info, and type in your email address, and you'll be hooked into our broadcast. And usually those emails are every day, sometimes more than 2 or 3. Why? Because there's so much going on now on all these related subjects, and we want you to know. The more you know, the wilder it gets, but the picture gets clearer, and what the picture is quite incredible. Everyone should have this information, and we ask, if you will, to share this information with your relatives and friends and neighbors, because they need to know what's going on also. Hundreds of people have already signed on to the service, and many more will be following, I'm sure. Now, what we're going to do for today's meeting is we're going to have members of DNNY come up and share at least one of their paranormal UFO sightings or whatever experiences with us. And we're going to have as many as we can fit into the next 45 minutes. So here we go. Please have hands for the people who haven't had. Okay, would you guys please come up and give us your first names, not the last names, and come bring it real close, the chair real close. Okay, and there you go. This is a father and son. Go ahead.
Michael and Jonah of Brooklyn.
Jonah. And
welcome, guys.
Yeah, we're going to talk about Ray.
Ray is someone who is, we'll say, is a being. It's someone who doesn't want to be named, and they are gendered. They're either male or female, and they don't want to be known as that or be named. So we're just going to call this being Ray. This being is actually a male or a female, and their real name isn't Ray, but we're just going to call him Ray, and they're being.
Fair enough.
Ray is an ET.
Yes.
Wow.
Ray is not from this planet.
Tell us more.
Yes. Ray has had a very tumultuous life in which Ray died a few times, had cancer, stage 4 cancer 4 or 5 times.
Multiple of them.
Multiple times,
yes.
And had to heal himself.
Yeah, themselves. Ray healed himself through actually going on a ketogenic diet and taking lots of probiotics and doing a lot of self-healing work and everything. But also, we also know Ray really well. They are actually considered family, not by blood, but when you know someone, when you know a being long enough, they be like, we have like, you know, people have like family friends and stuff, and they were a lot closer to them than their real blood family. So this person's like that. This being is like that. Excuse me. And Ray is very close to us, a very close family member. We
Now,
know
how
them
did
very
you early on meet Ray? How did that happen?
We met Ray about 9 years ago.
Where was that?
In Brooklyn. We went to talk about certain subjects, and Ray is a healer.
Oh, okay.
And my son had different conditions, and Ray wanted to help address them. And we didn't really know about the ET stuff till much later.
Okay. You didn't spring that on you right from the very beginning?
No, not at all.
Okay.
The idea is we would find out about it, and eventually we did find out some very interesting things about experiences from the 70s, experiences, I can go into a few of them, in which she and a very well
Ray,
the being historian, asked Ray to come and take part in psychic communications at the United Nations, because the Russians had their team of psychics and the United States had their team of psychics, and so beings were hired on both sides to see what the other was thinking. So Ray was a participant in this. Ray also was very well connected to those who took part in the Montauk Project, which, if you do your research, you will know what the Montauk Project is in terms of portals and transportation into different dimensions and so forth.
That's a huge subject, and we talked about this at other meetings, and absolutely amazing what went on.
Yes, and so there was a lot of background Ray shared about that as well. Ray also shared that when in Nevada he was driving.
No, they. Ray.
That they were driving. We refer to Ray as a they.
You can say being. Just say Ray.
Driving in a car in the desert in Nevada, and over the head was this ship. And 2 hours later, the ship was still there.
Wow.
Meaning it was not moving.
Okay.
It was just sitting there.
No sound of any kind.
It was that big.
Okay.
And that confirms a lot of other things I'd heard about ships like that.
Yeah.
Ray has been communicated with through guides telling Ray what's going on, what's going to happen. Next year is going to be exciting, I can tell you that much.
Exciting in a good way?
Yes, I think so.
Oh, good.
I think so, yes.
We like good news.
Yes, we like good things too. In any case, I think we could also tell briefly that he was told that Ray was told that service to others was why Ray was put on this planet. Ray has been identified by people in the know saying, "Hey, you're from such and such." And he's like, "Whoop." He's like, "Yeah, and in fact, I know all about you." What do you mean? So there is that kind of communication that goes on in the circles with people who know. And so it's like, okay, all right. So that's the kind of thing that's very common with Ray.
Wow.
And Ray, as we said, has had physical disabilities that were very extreme.
Ray used to be, Ray got actually paralyzed when Ray was in the 20s and everything. Yeah, I don't know how to say. I guess Ray was paralyzed in the 20s. I don't want to say he or
lots
her,
of physical.
But yeah, Ray had lots of like problems with paralyzation in their 20s, and yeah, and Ray got paralyzed in the back, and they told her Ray would never walk again. And then Ray actually got over it through a lot of like self-healing and everything, and Ray got lucky. But then things got harder when Ray was in what do you like? What's the pronoun you use if it's like?
Don't worry about pronouns.
Okay, Ray in their 30s then got crippled and had like four stage cancers, and doctors said that Ray would die and never walk again, but through lots of self-healing and research and education, yet even though Ray was like didn't have a lot of money and in a bad neighborhood and poor and had an abusive childhood and stuff like that with everything, and Ray came through and did everything that the doctor said would never happen. Ray lived and isn't crippled anymore,
Wow.
and Ray doesn't have any more cancers anymore. And
Fantastic.
so,
Now, are you in
Ray
communication
is a
with
Wonderful
Ray?
source.
Are you in communication with Ray?
Oh, constant. Yes.
yeah, I
Okay.
see Ray.
Yes, Ray is a wonderful source because he has a
Oh,
BS meter. Therefore, I can call and say, "Hey, I heard such and such and such," and Ray says, "Nah, not happening." Okay, thanks. just wanted to check that out, make sure, or something like that. It's like, so when is the big change in the economy going to happen? Not right now. Okay, always very good. Almost always right on the money. It's like, yeah, well, you're right, it didn't happen. Or it says, oh, this is going to happen tomorrow. No, it didn't happen tomorrow, not going to happen tomorrow. But January is supposed to be a very exciting month.
Exciting.
We'll see.
We'll see. Well, let's hope so. For the new year, we could use some good news.
Right,
God knows.
right.
Well, look, guys, thank you so much for keep us close on this, please. Keep us close on that.
Okay.
Thanks so much. Okay, someone else would like to. Betty, come on up and take your time.
Thank you.
Watch the down there. Okay, there you
Thank
go.
you.
Welcome,
Thank
Betty.
you.
Good to have you.
Thank
And
you.
take a seat right there.
Thank you.
And keep your voice up so that we get every word.
Yes.
Okay, so tell us. I know that you've had a lot in your life of amazing experiences, for sure. Give us one, memorable one.
Well, when I was teaching as a substitute, I used to keep the phone near my bed, and usually around 6 o'clock I would get a quick call. I woke up and I saw the receiver go down. So there must have been a spirit in the room, too. I was reading about St. Michael, and I was very depressed about my life. This happened about 2 or 3 years ago. I was reading about people who had experiences asking for help from Michael. They say that after help, he would leave a feather.
Oh.
Sure enough, when I came back from shopping, there was this beautiful black and red feather.
What?
That's right. And the windows were closed, so no bird could come in.
No bird should come in. Wow.
There was a feather. There was a beautiful black feather, which I pasted it onto my refrigerator.
So what did you think when you saw I mean, it was like, oh boy, here we go. This is a fulfillment.
Yes, I felt that surely that Michael was present in my room while I was shopping. But it sounds silly, but I happen to believe it.
No, it doesn't sound
I
silly.
happen to believe
Did
it.
life get a little bit better for you? You said you were a little bit on the depressive side. Did things lighten
Yes,
up a little?
Yes. I have seen UFOs 3 times in my life. But that's not a personal phenomenon.
No,
It
but
doesn't-
still.
It doesn't come from the body.
I know
It's
people who
something
said
which
that
is
they would
sighted
give.
from out there.
I know people who say I'd give anything in the world to see one UFO.
I've seen them 3 times,
So,
twice at night. When their sluices are open, they look orange. And they're one night after another. This was in upstate New York. I went out to see the beautiful stars and the planets. Everything was clear at night. There was this orange dot moving very fast, faster than any plane, and made a sharp right angle turn, which would kill our crews, by the way.
Why it would?
The next night, I went out again. The same thing happened in the same area. So I realized that that area, for some reason or another, was being monitored.
Where was that area? Do you remember what section?
That was in Woodstock. Up at
Okay.
Woodstock.
Okay. And that area, and also Pine Bush, New York, has multiple sightings that have been going back from the Indians who used to talk about the lights in the sky.
I'm sure.
That's how far back this goes.
The 4th time was about 2.5 years ago. It was during the day with a beautiful blue sky, no clouds at all. In the distance, I could see a sharp kind of cloud shaped like this. I knew that it was covering a ship. It was covering a ship out there.
Do you think the cloud was manufactured in some way?
I don't know if it was manufactured or not, but it was very clear. It was in the distance, very sharply
Not like a regular cloud would be. It was
No, that's
different than
correct.
that. Okay.
Very sharp.
Okay.
So I figured it's covering a ship.
And then you saw the ship come out of the cloud?
No, I stayed there to appreciate the sight of it, and I was hoping that, although I was many miles away, I was hoping that any intelligent entity would see me.
Okay. Did you get any feelings that way of any communication? Was there anything that you picked up?
Possibly.
Friendly, unfriendly? I don't know.
If there was communication, but I appreciated seeing it.
Okay.
And I was hoping that perhaps there was some communication.
Okay.
And that's about it.
That's wonderful.
Thank
Betty,
you.
thank you so much.
Thank
Take
you.
your time.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. Be careful of the tripod. Just take your time. There you go. Okay, someone else now who hasn't had a chance yet, please come on up. Take your time. I'll pull this. I can pull this a little further. Take your time. Okay, well, welcome, and if you will, just give us your first name, and then if you want to share something that you've seen or heard or whatever.
My name is Apulia for the group.
Welcome.
I have seen a UFO, but that's not what I'm going to talk about.
Okay.
This is about paranormal experiences.
Okay.
So I want to talk about the invisible world that exists alongside ours. And people who are psychic tend to also see UFOs. There is an overlap. I don't know exactly where the borders are, but I'm going to talk about my first experience. It was before I ever had wine, or I never took drugs. Not even, I was about 7 years old.
Wow.
And I woke up in the middle of the night, and there was a man standing in the doorway, and he was looking at me, just like I see you. He had a shock of white hair and a big smile, and I got up and I went, "Daddy!" And when I got there was no one there.
It wasn't Daddy.
It was somebody.
Okay.
I think I know who it was. And then years later, my other experience, there's more in between. I walked in home one day. My mother had passed away 6 months before. And there in the doorway, there she was. And she talked to me. And she gave me advice about a problem I had and told me, don't worry because it's all going to work out. And the next day I found out that the problem had moved away. But I didn't know it.
Oh, wow.
So
that would be an amazing emotional experience to see someone so close to you that had passed on and then seeing them again.
It wasn't emotional.
No.
In fact, I think that the less emotional you are, the more likely you are to have these types of experiences.
Really? Okay.
Because of those experiences as a young person, I sought answers because I've had many more experiences like that. I've seen beings. I've seen beings that are negative. And I said, when I had doubt, I said, well, if they're negative stuff, there's also positive stuff. So that I always kept that in mind, and I did a lot of reading. My path went through magic, occultism, history, and experiencing and learning from that, and seeking people out who had experiences or said they did, because there's a lot of phonies out there. And that's pretty much all I want to say at this point.
Well, let me ask you a question. In view of what you just said, do you have brothers and sisters?
I had a half-sister.
Okay. Did they or your grandmother, grandfather, parents, did anyone ever flag that there was things going on that they were perceiving also, or did no one ever talk about it?
Well, when I was 5 years old, my sister married and moved away, so I don't know. Okay. But she believed in these things, and
did she ever say to you that there was something?
She was too frightened of the experience, whereas I was not. I was very interested.
Good for
in
you.
Learning more
Pioneer
about it,
woman.
and that's how I got into ARE, because she was interested in ARE, Edgar Cayce readings, and that's how I met Betty originally.
Right.
And the point of the discussion is to show that there is life in different forms that we are not aware of. Mm-hmm. So while I have not seen an ET, at least I don't think so.
Okay.
I'm not saying they can't be there.
Okay.
And I'm interested in learning more about it by coming to your meetings.
Well, of course, you're a longtime member, and you've shared already so much of your own experiences. Thank you so much, and come again, please. Okay, someone else now. Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay, and then, okay, come on up. Take your time. And if you will be so kind, say your first name.
Sonia, and my experience was a warning that I got from the other side.
Oh.
When I was around, I think I was around 19 years old, I was with my friend in the living room, my home, and we were playing with the Ouija board.
Oh boy.
Okay. And I was asking questions, you know, like a teenager would ask, you know, am I going to
This is a family owned, like you had it in your
yeah,
family?
it was mine, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I asked a question, am I going to meet somebody? And it said yes. And
What's in my future?
yeah, and so is this person live nearby? And it said yes. And I asked a few more questions. And then the final question was, is this person good for me? You know, and the Ouija board just went round and round and round, and it just went right across from, like, say, here,
What?
all the way to the wall by
What?
itself.
What?
By itself until it hit the wall and it fell down. Then my friend, she panicked and ran out of the apartment. I got up and the Ouija board dropped. I got rid of it, and that's the last time. I opened the portal for it to message.
That is one hell of an answer for your question.
Well, interesting enough, about a month later, I was taking the subway, and this young woman approached me, and she looked, you know, she was interested in me, obviously. She was giving me the looks and everything, and I kind of like curious, and so she asked me to, you know, she invited me to her home. But this was a negative experience, so I was seeing her, but we never went all the way. We just kind of fooled around with each other. But what she was doing was feeding me heroin, little by little.
Ah.
You know, not needle, but just sniffing it. She
I
said,
hear
oh,
you.
it's safe. You could do it this way. This is safe. It's control and whatnot. But I saw that myself, I was going through some kind of change, and I got out of it. It only lasted like 2 months, but I got out of it.
Good for you,
So
absolutely.
this was the warning from the Ouija board.
You know, I gotta tell you that my mom, and I remember this even when I was a kid, she said, Nick, never ever go near a Ouija board or bring one to this home. She said, just don't ever do it. Now, I don't know why she said that, but obviously there was something in back of that. And she was very like, don't go near it, don't open that up at all. For what that's, I can remember she said that. And she was also very psychic. Very psychic. So something, and she didn't identify what it was. Obviously something had happened to her where she would say that. Thank you so much. And come again.
Yeah.
Say some more. Okay. Wow.
All right.
Yes, please come on up.
Okay. Yikes.
And well, by the way, you're new and welcome. I'm so happy. How did you find us?
Well, I found this group on the internet probably a little over a year ago.
Oh.
And I kind of thought about it, but then it just, you know.
Okay. Yeah, there's a lot.
And then a few days ago, it like literally popped up on my screen again. I don't know why. And I was like, oh.
Oh, I know why.
And I was like, oh, it's time.
I know why.
It's time. It's time for me to go.
You know,
so here I am.
crazier things have happened, and sometimes something comes in your path, and you're thinking, okay, I got the message. Let me pursue. That goes on, and I say trust that.
Yeah, timing is everything.
So I'm glad. So tell us, please, more about perhaps something that's happened to you recently, or something that you can't quite.
I was actually wondering, since I'm new here, maybe I could say something about how this all started for me.
Please.
And please, everybody, just know that I haven't had anybody to talk to about this.
Well, you have
It's been,
1, 2, 3, 4.
Now.
You have a family that's going to listen.
Since I was in the desert last May and had lots and lots of people to talk to, I've been very alone, and so I feel kind of like needy, like I need so much, you know, because it's just me. So let me tell you a little bit about myself and how this started. When I was like barely 3 years old, I don't remember this, I apparently complained to my mom repeatedly at 3 years old in 1964 that aliens were coming in my window and they were going in my ear at night and it was really bothering me.
Wow.
And so my mother, you know, she's like, well, let's go to the pharmacy and we'll get this special spray to put on the window so they won't come in.
A spray? Really?
Yeah, we're just gonna. I was a kid. She was like pissed. She's like, she's scared, whatever. But for years, I would cover my ear, like if I slept like this, I would cover this ear with hair.
Oh.
And it was kind of an ongoing thing that I complained about. The only thing I remember about this is constantly needing to put hair over my ear at night when I went to sleep to protect me from whatever. So that was I didn't really think about this until about a year and a half ago when I had this awakening thing. And then I really want to know if there was anything more to it. Yeah. And I need somebody to help me. I spent 3 days with Dr. Brian Weiss, Many Lives, Many Masters, over the summer, and I learned that I can hold other people's objects and get, yes, that. Oh. But it kind of freaked me out because the first person's thing that I hold, I was like, oh my God, there's a dead child here, and I didn't want to say it to her. Oof. It scared me. I've never done this before.
Sure.
But anyhow, with Brian Weiss, I just, nothing came up for me. I did not have any memories about what happened at 3 years old. But if anybody knows anybody who might be able to help me retrieve that memory, I would welcome it.
Okay.
So the next part, I think, will make this first part more interesting. My cousin was part of Bud Hopkins' group until he died. He was with him for over 2 decades. My cousin is younger than I am, and when he was a little boy, and I was just a little bit older than him, I was a little girl, he was a littler boy, he started telling me about his abductions.
Oh.
And he didn't want to tell anybody about his abductions because they thought he was nuts. Now my cousin has a really huge IQ, and he's a beautiful boy, like, really good genes. So one could understand perhaps why he would be a nice ET candidate if they were collecting, some genetics or whatever. But he was abducted. I don't know if he's probably stopped now, but I know up through his 20s and 30s, he was being abducted. His wife had lost time with him once they got married and they were living together. She was also being taken. So anyhow, I grew up listening to my cousin's stories of being abducted and metal being taken out of his body by that famous surgeon who takes all the...
Oh yeah, the implants?
The implant
really?
Doctor. So he had metal taken out of him. He has scars on his body from it. And I know that abduction or interest seems to run in families.
Yes.
So this made me now think even more about that thing that I said when I was 3 years old that I don't know what to make of. And maybe it's nothing, but I need to find out.
Absolutely. And one thing leads to the next, and sometimes a little piece of information, like I'm so glad that you could communicate with him or he knew that you started sharing.
Yes, because I was very comfortable hearing about it.
Yeah, well, okay.
So this brings me to the next thing, which is that I never really felt like I belonged here.
You'd be surprised how many people say things very much like that.
But I'm so happy to hear that because I'm so tired of feeling all alone with it. Mm-hmm. So I never understood people. I still don't understand quite how to interact with them. I just feel like a fish out of water here. And lately I've been having this feeling like I want to go home, And I think, well, that's crazy. And then I'm reading on the internet, I wish these people would stop saying they want to go home. It's enough already. And I'm like, oh. But I'm just saying these are the ways I feel. And I know that I was interested in all these things when I was a kid, and then it kind of disappeared out of my life. Maybe that's happened to a lot of other people. You become an adult and you get busy, and you go into other things.
You get busy with life, and life gets busy with you, and then you put stuff aside.
Right.
But you know what? It never goes away.
No.
Right? and it will come. It surfaces again.
Right.
And perhaps maybe when it does, you're more prepared.
Yes.
Okay, to say, all right, let's take a deep look at this because this did happen to me. So yeah. Well, first of all, you are so welcome in this group. I mean, you are fine.
Thank you.
And you have a lot of brothers and sisters right here that have had either similar experiences or other experiences, and we need to help each other and nourish each other.
Yes.
And that's the whole point of this, is to share and to nurture. And so you have come to the right place.
Yes. And I'm a huge Dr. Greer person. That's why I learned how to do transcendental meditation, which Michael and I were talking about before. And the day that I learned to meditate, I opened my eyes and the colors in the room had changed and the textures changed. And I started reading tons of books, and it felt like somebody was choosing them for me.
Whoa.
And they were all these subjects. And then I realized that they were all intertwined. All of it. It's all intertwined. They're all like this, you know, connected. And I also live upstate, so I now have orbs coming to visit me. People think I'm nuts, but, you know, I'm looking through my
Let them think what they want. They will eventually.
I've got my little
they will
infrared.
eventually come around. They will.
Yeah,
They
they're
will.
beautiful. They come in my field. And I had one ship come over my house over the summer. It was really, really, really high up, and it was moving really, really fast, and it didn't have any lights on it, but I could still see it. It was really weird. It was a triangle. And I have done only one CE5, but I hope to do many, many more. But I did it with Emery Smith.
You know, once you have that experience, everything changes.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because once you...
Do you all know who Emery Smith is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
Okay.
well, we got some hands up here.
Emery is like
Yeah.
one of the best people on the planet. And we went out to the desert with Emery Smith in May, 400 people, and did a CE5 amongst all these bases, right? There's all these bases out there. And the ships still came in, 7 of them, and they couldn't come close because we're in airspace, right? But what they did was they did this thing where they flash you, like it's this really incredibly bright light, like somebody's flashed you with a camera close to your face,
Oh,
but
boy.
it's coming from so high up, and it lands right on the group. And we had 7 of them come in, and that was in May. So that tells you a little bit about me and why I'm here.
Wonderful, and we want to hear more.
Yes,
because
and
we're
this
going to
is
have
so important to me.
us too, and we're going to have a part 3 probably in February. So we'll have more, and you could share perhaps more.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank
Guys,
you. So nice to be here.
we have time for, is there anybody else want to, right now? Anybody want to share anything? Yes? Oh, please. Well, come on up. And will you say your first name, and then you can...
Stephanie. My name is Stephanie.
Hello, Stephanie.
Hi. I have 2 quick stories. My husband passed away almost 15 years ago. But before he passed away, in our home, we always used to hear footsteps in the hallway. And so much so that one time I needed him to do something, but he was at work, coming home from work. And I heard footsteps, and I heard the keys in the door. I said, oh, great, he's here. Now he can help me with whatever I needed done. And he never came in the door.
Wow.
And 15 minutes later, he came home, and I said, were you here 15 minutes ago? Or did you just walk out back to the car? And he said, no, it's the first time I'm coming home. And I said, well, that's odd. I thought you were coming in the hallways, those footsteps again. After he passed away, I heard the footsteps maybe 1 or 2 times, and after that, I never heard them again. So I believe that my husband said, this is my home. Whomever was it, you know, whatever spirit was there, it might have been previous owners, but he said, this is my home, my domain. And that's it. I have never heard him again. The other quick story is that when I was about 13 years old, in Brooklyn, I lived in an 8-family apartment building, 4-story. And one day I went to take a shower. It was evening, late evening, and my parents were sleeping. My brother was sleeping. As I stepped out of the shower and out of the bathroom, it was a floor-through apartment, very old building. And the kitchen was to my right as I stepped out of the bathroom. And I looked over, and there were 2 windows with Venetian blinds. The Venetian blinds were closed tight. And I saw this orange flame just kind of like shoot up. And I grabbed a towel and I screamed. I was screaming like this because I thought I felt the heat. I thought the building was on fire.
Wow.
Now, we had family that lived in the building on the first floor. My aunt lived down there. My uncle lived there. They both had their families. And the first thing I thought of was my aunt is downstairs and her apartment must be ablaze.
Whoa.
And I started to scream. My father came running, and I said, fire, fire, fire. And he said, where's the fire? Where's the fire? I said, it's got to be on the building. Go, look out the window. And he went to look, and there was nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. So I am paranoid of fire. I really believe that when I die, I will die in a fire because it was such a strong feeling.
Wow.
And I was just telling one of our members here about a story that my father recently, he's 90 years old, I'm a caregiver for him, and it's really hard these days to really come to the meetings because of that. But he's always up to stuff. And he wanted to put Christmas lights in the window. And he was very good at tinkering when he was younger. But now that he's 90, I have to watch what he does. So I didn't realize he has this OCD problem and he hates having a lot of things around. So he doesn't like a lot of wires. So what he did was he spliced 2 wires together and did not use electrical tape. He used like some sort of medical tape.
God.
And I didn't even know it. And there were curtains near it, and it's in the kitchen. So the other day I just was washing dishes and I looked over and I saw that wire and I was like, okay, this could have been a very bad situation.
Oh, you bet.
So I tried to be calm, unplugged it. I walked over. I said, Dad, you can't do things like that. And it brought me back to that thing of fire. And then my 2 kids, when they moved out of the house and they got their own places, what was the first thing I bought them? Fire extinguishers and smoke alarms. And it's just a thing that really sticks with me. And if I ever do die, and if you ever hear the news of me dying, you heard it here first.
Well, I hope that never happens.
I hope it never happens, but I'm just, that's...
You might want to bring a bottle of water
Yeah.
with you.
And that's my story.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Okay, well, guys, we're out of time. This has been amazing. This is Disclosure Network New York. I'm Nick Curto, co-director, director, and co-founder, and we'll be having more part 3 of the series, probably in either late January or February.